First, let me apologize for how the screen looks. I know it sucks. Hey, cycling community, this is Steve Grusis, the Cycling Greek. I'm still trying to figure out how I can do a video capture on an Apple TV. I don't own a Mac, I own Windows. Now I can pull my Windows PC into the bike room where I can then do a video capture, but that takes a lot of work. What I typically use is a GoPro Session 5, but that lasts about maybe an hour max, and this race that I'm doing now is 2 hours minimum. So instead I had to use my Garmin Verb, which lasts about 2 hours 20 minutes. But apparently it does this. Nevertheless, I'm going to talk about what I wanted to talk about today. I just started my off season this week, and I have found that off seasons are a great place to make mistakes that just don't last long, because usually during endurance type of stuff. More specifically, it's hard to overtrain in the off season. Keeping that in mind, I decided to push my limits this weekend. So this race that you're watching now is on a Sunday. On Saturday, I did 100 miles, in which about 35 miles were solo, going to the start location where my teammates were and then coming back home. And then the 60-65 miles was paceline work, endurance-based paceline work. Under this particular format, we are doing 1-minute pulls, and we're doing it around 19-20 miles an hour, maybe a little plus, depending on what's going on. The course is mostly flat. There was one little hill, and it was killing me, but it was mostly flat. What made that workout a challenge for me, especially toward the end, it started to turn almost into a death march, is that I started doing leg work in the gym. I'm about 2 weeks into that, and my last lifting session was on Thursday, so like 2 days before. On top of that, the temperature shot up, almost into the triple digits. And I was pretty well acclimated before, but now that the temperature's been down, the racing season has finished, and so I've lost my acclimatization. I thought I was feeling good. Only when I stopped was I feeling hot, but by the time I got home, I could tell the heat was affecting me. When I got home, all I could do was drink water because I didn't feel like eating anything. Once I started feeling better, I started my recovery protocol, and one of those things was getting on this big foam roller I have to just work out my legs, because I knew I had this race coming up by the next day. Which brings us to where we are now, at the race. So this is a Masters race, and categories A through D, actually it's A through E, in which A's are going to be the 30-39s, all the way through E's, which are going to be 70 plus. I am in the D, as in dog, between 60 and 69. I am 67. I think there are 7 people, maybe a little more, that signed up in our particular category, but I believe only 7 finished. Another key item about this race is that it is almost 47 miles long. And one of the reasons I chose it is, one, because it's Masters and I'm an old guy, but also with it being a much longer race than usually what appears on Zwift, that I'm thinking that, maybe these guys will just go slower and then just punch it at the end. Well, things took off pretty darn fast in the beginning, especially with the D's trying to catch up to the front group that was just a little bit ahead of us, which were the A's, obviously. We all started at the same time. So now we're about 16 miles into the race, and I'm still with these guys, so I'm very thankful about that. This road race has about 3 laps in it, and at about the 80% mark in each lap, that's where the climbing actually starts, and that's what really gave me some problems. In fact, let's go to that second lap climb now. I made it up with the group on the first time up that climb, but man, it was like a sustained time trial, full time trial mode. And no one got away, and I was with the group as you're seeing now. Now you're seeing we're at about the 28-mile mark, and so with each lap being a little over 15 miles, we're on the climb, although there's a lot of bright and you really can't see much of anything because this sucks right now. So what's happening is I am losing contact with the pack, and I will lose contact on the second time up. And I knew I was going to have problems after I did that first lap, because I was feeling all the accumulation of the weightlifting and the 100 miles the previous day. So at this point, I've passed some people up. I'm starting to kind of get in the groove. Some people are kind of dying out, and it looks like I'm going to be able to connect with these guys. Maybe at this point, but again, I'm going to lose contact with them, and so it may be happening right here. Goodness, this is bright. Something I neglected to mention is that you notice my uniform is yellow, so that indicates the 60 to 69s. The A's are red. The B's are going to be the 40s or 49, they're green, and the C's are going to be the 50s, they are blue. And I think there is maybe one person that was signed up for the E's for the 70s, and he's in purple. Now this is looking kind of familiar. I think this is going to curve around to the right and then lead into town. And I'm now trying to make contact. I can look up ahead, and I've seen it obviously when I was racing this, but there are some a number of yellows that are up there. There's some pretty strong 60 pluses over there. Those are strong guys. I can see my wattage up in the upper left-hand corner, and I can tell I'm getting tired because I'm not even reaching 300 watts. My 1 hour calculated FTP is around 275, and yeah, I'm just getting tired. This is where I officially am dropped from the group, and I'm not going to catch these guys again. In that group are going to be 4 of the category Ds. So that means there are at least 3 Ds left. And I'm leading them, so I'm now starting to look at the graphics on the right that we can't see right now, in hopes that I can see where they are and see how much energy I have to put into the rest of the race, because I still have about 17 miles to go or so. So a blue came up to me, and so now I have an A and a B, and I'm going to do what I can just to stick on their wheels. I need to recover a bit. It is now about 3 miles later, and I was watching this group that was getting closer and closer to us, chasing us down. I saw there were a number of Ds in that group. I just didn't have the energy to put into trying to keep us away. So they caught us, and then I started counting to see how many are out there, and I think there were maybe 2 others that came up to us. By the time we got to the 44-mile mark, keeping in mind that 46.8 miles is the finish of this race, we were down to 4 riders, and now we're starting to climb again. And we lost to everyone else. No one else went ahead of us. And we even lost that category A. So we have 1 B, and I have those 2 other Ds that are with me. During the last 10 miles, the stronger of our group, and that included one of the category Ds, would make an attempt to surge away and maybe form like a 2-man break or something. That would go up the road, and they would eventually be pulled back in. But these guys were pretty strong. So now we're on the climb. And the thing that I noted from before is that at the second lap, I was ahead of these guys going on the climb, and they're the ones that caught up to us. So I'm thinking, maybe I could do that again. But then this is 15 miles later, so we'll see what I got. As it turns out, I did go solo on the climb, trying to get away from everyone else. One of the Ds caught up to me, so I dropped the C and I dropped another D, so now it's just the 2 of us. What you can barely see in the upper left-hand corner next to my wattage is my power-up. I have an arrow power-up, and I got that actually early on in the race. And I decided just to hang on to it for the finish, hoping that I'd be at the finish with somebody, and literally I am right now. So we are measuring up. He's now putting a surge in. I am not paying attention to that power-up. In fact, I'm not even paying attention to the finish line. I'm just looking at his front wheel. I just want to get on there so I can start my sprint, but I'm not paying attention when I should start it. I'm not even looking at the button and so now I see it's too late to hit the button, but he caught me, and good on him. Okay, I'm pleased with how I did. I finished 6 out of the 7 finishers. We may have had 7 starters. I thought we had maybe closer to 12, but given everything, I'm pleased with that. If you're new to the channel, hang around, subscribe. I'm going to be doing a race recap of the 2022 racing season, and then I'm going to be doing a video on what my off-season training is going to be. All right, you know the drill. For those of you that have watched my stuff before, you know the drill. Comment, like, subscribe. The Cycling Greek.